Hello, class. Corporal Kendrick reporting for duty. All right, let's get started. We are going to have a fun-filled day, even without me in the room. As you may remember, I am out today because I have to be in several doctor's appointments. I'm going to be getting my teeth looked at, as well as my hurt knee. So, thank you, Hogwand. We're going to get started today talking about more logical fallacies. Today we're going to be talking about the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy. I'm going to be quiet for a second, pause me here so that you can open up Schoology and get that out if you haven't already. Chances are, if you have found this video, you're already in the Schoology folder, but just in case, I'll pause myself and you get that out. Okay, so now that we all have out the Schoology work for the day, a couple of reminders. First reminder is that the Week 4 reading guide is going to be due this Wednesday when you come to class. That is the 2nd of March. Can you believe we're in March already? Second reminder is that there are only 10 more school days left, 9 more wake-ups until spring break. So the end of Q3 is around the corner. Let's just make sure that we are showing up to class and attending. Okay, let's now have our last reminder, and that was that yesterday was my birthday. I hope you all had a great weekend. I sure did. I had a really nice birthday. I saved you all a piece of cake. I hope you enjoy it. I'm not sure how I'm going to get it into the computer. But anyway, let's take just like a 10-second birthday celebration for me. Okay, here we go. Woo! Woo! Okay, that's probably enough birthday celebration. Thanks for being a part of that. Okay, so today we are going to look at another logical fallacy. First, though, we have a question of the day. So the question is, how many species of plants, animals, insects are made extinct daily as a result of deforestation of tropical rainforests? So kind of a grim and gloomy question. I'll repeat it again. How many species do you think are completely wiped off the face of the earth every day as the result of cutting down forests, tropical rainforests? Give you a second. Do you think it's one? Do you think it's a million? Okay. I'm about to say the answer, so if you want to keep thinking about it, you better pause me. The answer is. Drum roll, please. The answer is 150. That's crazy, isn't it? 150 species every day. Terrible thing to think about. Anyway, speaking of terrible things to think about, I'm wearing my uniform because they keep on fighting in Ukraine. I encourage you guys to keep following that story. I'm sure you are. If you have any questions, let me know tomorrow. Okay, let's jump into the work for today with post hoc ergo propter hoc. What did I just say? Before we do that, though, a quick recap going back to slippery slope fallacies from last week. So let's take a second here and watch this direct TV commercial.
When your cable company keeps you on.
So, in that commercial, which you would just have gotten to by following the link in the handout, we can see things escalate very quickly. So, remember we learned last week that in slippery slope fallacies, situation A leads to situation B, which leads to situation C, which leads to, oh God, situation D. It's terrible. Don't look away. It makes a situation escalate and become really extreme. So Where do you think the weakest link in the chain of events in that video is? Do you think it's the assumptions people make about people with eye patches? Where does the thinking go wrong for you? There's just a little quick recap of the slippery slope. Go ahead and pause the video now so that you can jot down your thoughts on that video. I'm assuming you have paused the video and are now coming back, so let's go ahead and move on to a couple of key points for the day. So today we're not going to be talking about slippery slope anymore, just wanted to do a little quick recap. Today we're going to be talking about post hoc ergo propter hoc. So big long pile of Latin. You don't really need to remember all of those words. We're going to just refer to it as post hoc from here on out. But what post hoc ergo propter hoc literally means is after this, therefore because of this. And again, you should be following along in the key point section of the handout. So that phrase means because this happened after this, it must have been caused because of this. In about a second, we're going to be watching a video about a lucky shirt, but you can think about post hoc like this. So let's say you've got this shirt that you wear every time there's a math test, and you put the shirt on, you go in, you take your math test, you score a 100. Top is over the moon. He calls Mrs. Diaz and says, "What a brilliant student we have here. They've made a 100 on this extremely difficult test." Did you get the answers right because of your shirt? Or did you get the answers right because you're really smart? The shirt cannot tell you how to do math. It cannot do pre-calculus. It is just a shirt. So within post hoc fallacies, someone is saying that something happened right after something else, so it must have been caused by that thing. Remember back to last week when we were talking about causal relationships? I find this penny on the ground right before I take the test. I passed the test. Did the penny do anything for me? There's just no way. You could only do well on a test if you know the information, or if you got really lucky with the multiple choice. But anyway, the shirt did not create the luck. Passing the test happened to come after the shirt. The two are not related in any way. So again, this becomes a fallacy when there isn't a real causal relationship between A and B. So we frequently encounter post hoc fallacies when we think about superstitions. And superstitions are beliefs or practices that result from either like ignorance of actual causes of things, or fear of the unknown, or trust in magic or chance, or a false conception of causation. People believe that, if they step on a crack, that will lead to breaking their mother's back, or that breaking a mirror is 7 years of bad luck. It's not a good thing to break mirrors. It's expensive and dangerous, but it's not a matter of luck or not. So anyway, that is post hoc. Now what we are going to do is learn a little bit more about post hoc ergo propter hoc by watching a thoroughly entertaining video. So I'm not sure that the person who made this video was trying to make it funny, but it's one of the funniest videos that we'll watch all year to me. So go ahead, pause the video now, or pause me talking to you now, and watch this other video. You will not be disappointed. I think it's very entertaining, but I think it's also very informative, or I wouldn't be showing it to us. So as you are watching this, take note of these three things. What is the thinking behind post hoc ergo propter hoc? When does post hoc become a fallacy? And how do you attack or argue against a post hoc fallacy? So I'll be quiet for a second, pause me, watch this other video, come back when you're finished and when you've taken those notes on those things, and we'll go over them really quickly. Okay, I'll be quiet for a second so you can switch. Okay, so now that you have watched that video, you've seen that the thinking behind post hoc ergo propter hoc is that, just as we saw in those notes we just took, because one thing happened immediately after a second thing, that second thing must have been caused by the first time. This is sometimes true. I stub my toe in the night. I begin cussing and screaming. I'm cussing and screaming because I stubbed my toe. Sometimes things do follow from what happened immediately before, but when there is not a causal relationship, then we have a post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy. So that answers question 2. A post hoc becomes a fallacy when the second event is not caused by the first event. And then finally, how do you attack or argue against a post hoc fallacy? You point out that the second event didn't follow it, and you give a more plausible or reasonable explanation of what did or could have caused that event. Okay, 1 second. I have to shush my special guest. I'll be right back. Our special guest was playing with his dinosaur, so he might honk a little, but that we'll let him be. Okay. So now we're going to do a little bit of quick practice with the post hoc fallacy. So take a look at this example. It rained on the day that Henrietta was buried. We're talking about Henrietta Lacks here. One of her cousins was killed in that storm. So, therefore, she must have been trying to send a warning to her family. Go ahead and take a minute here, pause me, and try to identify where is the fallacy in this reasoning. Where is the post hoc fallacy? All right, pause me here. We'll come back together in a second. Welcome back. Okay, so what is more probable? What is more reasonable in this case? That a ghost would control the weather and kill one of its own family members to send a symbolic message, or that the weather was terrible on the day that Henrietta was buried, and tragically one of her relatives was killed during this bad weather. What we have here is a post hoc fallacy because the assumption is made in a very extreme way that because of the rain happening at the funeral, it must have been Henrietta's will. The two events must have been caused by the other, that the rain was caused by the funeral and that the death of Henrietta's cousin was caused by the funeral. That just is not a reasonable conclusion. Therefore, we have a post hoc fallacy. By pointing out that this is not a reasonable conclusion and then explaining a more reasonable alternative, I have done my job at exposing the post hoc fallacy and counter-arguing it successfully. So, let's take a brief intermission. Take a little trip to the aquarium. Okay. So, and as I mentioned before, we are going to have a special guest coming on soon. Give you a quick hint as to who that special guest might be. I wonder who it could be. All right, so let's go ahead and get on with the last part of the lesson. And that, after a quick recap, post hoc is a logical fallacy that assumes that one event caused another event to happen when the second event was not actually caused by the first. We can counter post hoc fallacies by pointing out that there are more probable, more likely factors that caused situation B to happen than situation A. So today, for your exit ticket, there are 2 scenarios that you can choose from. What you're going to want to do with this is pick one of these 2 options, and then write a counter-argument paragraph in response to the scenario that you pick. You should include as much terminology as you need to from what we learned today. Options could include causal relationship, premise, and remember a premise is an assumption that we make in logic, probability, the likelihood of something happening, or valid and invalid, which just means true and false when we're talking about logic. So, scenario one, option one. The only policy that effectively reduces public shootings is right to carry laws. Allowing citizens to carry concealed handguns reduces violent crime. In the 31 states that have passed right to carry laws since the mid-1980s, the number of multiple victim public shootings and other violent crimes has dropped dramatically. So if you choose this one, if you choose to identify the post hoc fallacy in this, you may need to do a little research if you don't understand all of the claims that are being made about right to carry. But basically, just remember your job in counter-arguing this is to say, did this situation really cause the second situation to happen? And are there any more likely causes for that second situation to happen? So that's option one. Option two, I must stress this is not real. This is a conspiracy theory mixed in with stuff that I made up. So this is false. This next thing that I'm about to say, please do not report me to YouTube for saying this and get me banned, or there won't be any more videos on days that I'm absent. So anyway, this is not real. So option two, in the months before the coronavirus began, 5G wireless technology was being installed and activated around the world, including in areas around Wuhan, China. The frequencies in 5G must be harmful and are the only reasonable explanation for COVID. Again, I do not believe this. I do not believe the thing I just said. So again, your job would be to counter-argue this. What is the assumption about the second event happening immediately after the first event? What are more likely alternatives for that? You may again need to do some research if you choose this option. So after you finish completing your counter argument, keep working on a more Life of Henrietta Lacks and the Week 4 reading guide. Remember, it's only chapters 18 through 22 that is over. Remember in your exit ticket to include a topic sentence that identifies the name of the fallacy. This is a post hoc fallacy. Write it, use it. We want to remember it. And points out the weakness in the logic. You want to clearly state a logical alternative. You want to explain any evidence that you need within that logical alternative. And you need to address the broader significance or potential outcome. What would happen if this situation was not corrected? What would happen? What would be a more likely outcome if it were, if it were to be believed or debunked, proved to be false. All right. So that is what you need to do today. Pretty short day, pretty simple. As promised, since you stuck around till the end of the video, we are going to have a special guest. Give me 1 second while I make sure that they're ready for their debut. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here we go. Fergus, do you want to go to school? Can you say hi? Can you wave? Can you not eat the cake? Okay. All right. Have a good day, guys. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Study hard. All right. Bye. Oh, there it goes. Nope. Oh, well. I will see y'all tomorrow.